Welcome. You are watching Thru the Lens. Thru the Lens is an educational and informative show where we'll be watching and analyzing police videos of critical incidents and officer-involved shootings. Our host, Marlon Marrache, aka The Sarge, that's with D-A, not T-H-E, is a retired sergeant with over 24 years of service with the LAPD. He actually has over 12 years experience in police discipline and use of force protocols. He will be sharing his insight and wisdom from his experience in the LAPD. Today, we have a very special guest, Danny DeVoe. She is a licensed psychotherapist. She'll be providing insight from a mental health aspect around what can lead an individual to commit suicide by cop. She will also provide insight on the effects it may cause on those who were present, and such as family members and police officers involved in these critical incidents. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, guys. So today is our first episode. Today we are going to be tackling the topic of suicide by cop. Marlon, what kind of experience do you have with this subject? And is this something that is, openly trained and talked about in the department?
Well, thanks for having me here, Aníbal.
Of course.
Gusto. Danny, thanks for showing up and give us your wisdom and your insight as well. Look, this type of topic has become somewhat of a phenomenon. You know, it's one of those things where suicide by cop, we're starting now to get data, right? We're starting to realize that certain incidents and certain situations with these officer-involved shootings, commonly known as OISs, and you'll hear me saying that a lot, because, us cops, we just
love those acronyms, bro. You guys love them.
Love acronyms. So in these OISs, we're starting to realize that perhaps maybe this could be a situation where it's a suicide by cop. But the only way we're going to be able to kind of break these walls, if you will, is if we start, kind of examining and analyzing, these particular scenarios and videos that you're about to show us. So
definitely,
it's very important. I think that all can benefit, whoever's watching into something that it's not talked about a lot.
Yeah, so the purpose of this show is obviously to inform and educate people about these subjects, because even though it's not talked about, I know police officers deal with them on a daily basis, and I think any additional training and information that can help anyone save a life is important, whether it's their own life, like they're trying to commit suicide, which is why we have Danny here to talk about what may lead an individual to be in that position to want to commit suicide. And then from the police aspect of how they could possibly, be aware, maybe this person is trying to get me to act in a certain way, and maybe they just need help, But obviously through your experience as a sergeant and keeping the police safe at the same time, following protocols and all of that. And I know there's, we can talk for hours and hours about all the different, dynamics and situations and, police officers possibly having to deal with repercussions, both legally, emotionally, mentally, and the family members involved as well. So I think it's very important what we're going to be talking about and reviewing these videos. They're actual situations that happen in people's lives. So I do want to give you guys a warning and a disclaimer. Some of the videos that you're going to be seeing that we're going to be reviewing does show some graphic content. People do pass away, and people are affected. So if you are easily squirmish, sit there and squirm, because we're gonna play it. but yeah, guys, I want to first, before we get into it, talk about exactly what is suicide by cop, and then some of the key indicators to kind of see, when someone is potentially trying to do that. So I do have a little picture that I want to pull up here real quick. So we have here, the first one is the definition of suicide by cop. It's an incident or an encounter in which a suicidal person attempts to die by suicide by forcing a law officer, enforcement officer, to use lethal force. Okay. Second thing here, some of the characteristics that you may see with these subjects. One of them is, they're threatening the life of the officer or another person. They might be either saying it verbally or in a threatening manner with some kind of weapon or something. They attempt to make the officer believe he possesses such a threat, like they can actually kill you or they can actually hurt you. And in order to give the officer no choice but to use lethal force to stop the threat, so they say, I'm going to do this so that I force the cop to kill me. The last part here we have is recognition of knowing, possibly. Because the thing is, unfortunately, when these things do happen, the person is dead and they can't say exactly what was going through their mind.
Correct.
But these might be some of the things that we can recognize when someone is attempting to commit suicide by cop. They'll say things like "kill me" or "shoot me," and they're coming at you in a threatening manner, expressing that they wish to die. They appear to be depressed or in a mental health crisis, which Danny can talk about that as we review these videos. She can talk about, okay, I can see this person is in a bad mental state. And is person that is not behaving like a criminal offender, and Marlon, obviously you have a lot of experience dealing with criminal offenders. You can tell when someone is like, this is not normally how a criminal responds. This might be something differently,
Right. And if I may add
Of
also into, the recognition aspect of all this is that sometimes there's situations where you are dealing with the fact that someone is suicidal, someone has these ideations and these tendencies to commit suicide. But at the same time, because when the police responds, and I'm just speaking from the lens of a tactical approach,
yes,
you have to kind of recognize what you're getting yourself into. So, for example, it can, in a split second, they could barricade themselves. So now you have to ask yourself, do you have a crime or you don't have a crime? Because depending on the circumstances, you might be dealing with a non-criminal barricade or a criminal barricade. And there's ways to deal with, tactically in those situations, because at some point you might make that decision to tactically disengage. And then the question is, how do you disengage?
Yep.
Right.
And so there's, every situation is fluid. So I just want to ensure that the audience, whoever's watching these particular videos, and please, my disclaimer is also to say that this is just my opinion from my experience. By no means are we here to pass judgment as to what happened. But perhaps by watching this show, you're going to get something out of it as to, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
And so hopefully between Danny and I, we can kind of explain to you that perhaps things could have been handled different, but by no means that is to pass judgment on what happened, because you and I both know, all of us here know that, there's consequences that comes with such critical incidents, and we can talk about that later on.
And I also kind of want to add into that, just normalizing that it's a soul, it's a person. And in those incidents, I'm sure you're reacting, not really even aware of that. You're just trying to protect, trying to keep everyone safe. That's the priority. But being able to see with mental health, there are people, there are souls, and they're struggling.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. So just to finish off these last two bullet points here, another way you can kind of recognize if someone's attempting to commit suicide by cop is, they're behaving aggressively towards the police with no apparent reason out of nowhere. And they're exhibiting strange behavior, such as committing random acts of violence or ramming a police car. So I want to get right into it and go over two critical incidents, two videos that we're going to be reviewing. The first video is going to be a domestic abuse suspect out of Fort Collins, Florida. The man is a 63-year-old male by the name of Jerry Jackson. And this happened back in August 25th of 2016, where he was brandishing a knife. He had broken into a partner's house and was, physically and verbally abusing them, which then the police was called, and this is where the video will begin. So I'm going to go ahead and play that, and if you guys want me to stop it at any time, please let me know. Again, guys, just to give you the disclaimer again, a warning, this video does, have some acts of violence, so viewer discretion is advised. Okay, I do have a quick question, Marlon. So when these situations happen, I'm sure domestic violence is something that happens all the time. Either the person calls or someone hears people, fighting and they call the police. What kind of information do they give you before you show up? Do they tell you anything over the intercom, or how do you get these calls? I really have no idea how police officers even show up. I just think like, oh, someone called the cops.
Yeah, that's right. You call 911 here, right? And there's a dispatch center. So that dispatcher whoever that person he or she is really paying attention to a lot of the details that are being set to by the person who's actually calling. So that person calling is like what we normally call a PR, a person reporting.
Yeah.
But that person reporting can be a third party, right? Someone that's actually watching
the
incident, right? Or it can be the actual victim. Hey, you know what? This is what's going on.
Yeah.
Someone's trying to kill me, or, whatever. My husband is, broke the door and he's trying to, take my kids, et cetera, et cetera. So the PR can be any person. So what we don't know, and I'm glad you stopped it, is that in this particular video, I don't know anything but the fact that there is a domestic suspect or domestic abuse suspect. So basically he's a suspect and we don't know who called.
And that's a tough part for the job, is a lot of the times you don't have all the backstory, the back information. Like, we don't know what's going on in this man's life. Did he lose his job?
Right.
Is he going through a mental health issue? Is he a drug addict? What is his state of mind?
Right.
So you're going into the situation, all you know is a domestic violence situation. This guy has a knife.
Correct.
And, I'm sure it's a tough situation to deal with.
Yeah. Information in it itself is very, very vital.
Yeah.
Very key.
Disclaimer to audience out there: if you ever happen to be in a situation where a critical incident is happening, and it can happen to anybody, make sure that you provide as much information as you can to the dispatcher when you're calling 911, because that information can save someone's life. It can save someone's life. The more information you provide, the more knowledge and information that the police officer involved is going to have to make those quick decisions on whether to act in a certain way, right? So we'll go ahead and hit play again.
Hey,
Jay,
drop it.
That knife.
Drop it right now.
Right now.
Drop it now.
Drop it. Drop that knife.
242, he's refusing to drop a knife. Hey, drop it right now or you're going to get shot.
Drop the knife, Jerry.
Jerry,
no, we're
hey,
not
guys.
going to do that, Jerry. We don't
Alan,
want to do that.
Alan, one voice, just you, okay?
All right.
Hey, do not come toward us. You need to drop that knife right now. Yes. Hey, drop that knife.
So I don't know if you guys heard that.
The one voice.
But he said, kill me. And he's a very old man. He looks very frail. We can't see his face, but we can see his body language and his posture. Danny, from your experience when people are dealing with suicidal ideation or going through a mental health crisis, what are some key things that you can kind of visually see and maybe possibly help them?
Well, in this moment, right, when you're irrational and your emotions are consuming you, you're not able to really listen or take control over that, because you're just, adrenaline is going.
Yeah.
And I like what the officer just did. He said one voice, which is smart, because if you're having multiple voices coming at someone, they're not knowing where to go, which is stimulating them even more and making them more reactive.
Yes.
So that was a really smart move for mental health in general.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that makes a lot of sense, especially when you see these videos where there's like 20 cops and they're all yelling at him and he probably hears nothing. Like it just sounds like white noise.
Yep.
To the person that's pumped with adrenaline, pumped with these emotions. We don't know if they're under some kind of narcotic or not. Like people yelling at you all at one time is probably not a good idea. It's a good thing you pointed out.
And the key is to get their nervous system to get grounded and calm.
I see.
And that's what the one voice is going to actually start guiding and providing that.
I'm going to go ahead and concur and second that with Danny over there, because one voice is really all you need. But you know what? Oftentimes, and by the way, we're better. What's the best way to couch this? Where police officers today are well better trained than there were 25 years ago. And I say that lightly, not to say that 25 years ago when I came on the job, I wasn't, well trained. I mean, completely trained. But now there is just more data, there's more information, there's more awareness. Yeah. Right. And so one of the things that we always talk about, it is a tactical approach, is the fact that, how many voices do you need? Yeah. Especially when everybody's yelling at you. It happens so often. And we try to tell, I know I used to tell my officers, we're involved in a critical incident, just one. I remember in the academy, we had a situation where You're talking to someone who has suicidal tendencies and ideations.
Yeah.
And the instructor's telling me, just one voice, just one voice. So needless to say, it has been like that for decades.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know.
But in a sterile environment, and you can train every day and be told, it's like a kid, right? You tell someone five times.
You're training in a vacuum compared to training
and then next
in real
you know,
life,
you're out there in real life, and just
Different.
the emotions just get the best of you, and here we go.
Well, and also if we think about it from a normal functioning brain response, when we're in conflict with anybody, if you're constantly shouting over each other, no one's hearing each other.
Yeah.
No one's really being able to be present. So that's going to also make him more disassociated.
Right. Okay, let's keep watching this video.
Shot, dude.
Drop that nut, Jay.
Sorry.
Do it now.
Drop the nut.
Let's move back.
We got nothing here.
No, let's
So
move
they're
back.
giving him his warning.
Drop it, Jerry.
Come on, Jerry. We will shoot you. Do not make us do this, man. Damn it, I got less sleep.
I don't mean to stop it a lot of times, but I want to stop it in important points that I think there's a lot going on in each person's mind. So right here we have two police officers. One of them just said, we don't want to do this. So to me that hits pretty deep, because they know at one point they have to engage if he doesn't stop, So just to bring that up, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit play.
He's in my car.
God damn it.
Fuck. Hey,
Back up.
no, I don't like this low ground,
I
man.
don't like this.
Hey,
Jerry.
let's block this up. Back up this way. Come on, Jerry.
Drop that nut, Jerry.
Jerry. No. No, you drop it. Drop it, the knife. Copy that.
Too far away, but
Jerry,
Stop. Stop.
take it if you got it.
get on the ground.
Taser was deployed. Doesn't seem to work.
Switching transition.
All right. Hey, Jerry, do not do this, man. Drop it right now.
Drop the knife.
No.
Second
Okay.
taser. Okay, go ahead.
I actually, there's two things. We don't want to do this. And when he says, kill me, he says no. That is important too, because when someone is suicidal,
Yeah.
they feel like they're alone, that no one in the world cares about them, that they don't matter.
Yeah.
And so even them stating that, if he's receiving it or not, is showing your life matters. We care about you. We don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Might even give them that little glimpse of, hey, someone cares.
Yeah. Second taser deployed. Didn't work.
242. We got 2 taser deployments failed.
We're too far away.
Hey, do not do it. I'm going to shoot you, man. I'm going to shoot you, man. Stay down.
Okay. So what is your initial thoughts on what just occurred, Marlon?
Okay, so a couple of things. So what we need to kind of paint the picture a little bit more than what we just got done watching is in terms of how the tactical deployment was, it's probably textbook. I mean, come on, we're talking about the fact that in their minds, they don't want to shoot him.
Right.
He's telling you he wants to die.
Yeah.
There is that warning, right? He even gave a warning.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to shoot you. They know him by his name.
Yeah.
When you're constantly telling someone that, hey, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. So the question becomes, well, how many times are you going to tell someone to drop the knife?
Right.
So in other words, what other options do you have? Now, bear in mind, it's all fluid.
Yeah.
I know that one officer is probably going to go home thinking to himself, you know what, that beanbag is, and apparently it was the other less lethal weapon that he left back in the car.
Yeah.
And I believe he made a comment like, it's just unsafe for me to leave.
Yeah.
I
didn't even catch that, but
right. So do you? You got an officer ready at gunpoint, right?
Yeah.
You got the officer out ready. Do you go and go get it, or do
Yeah.
you live with the fact that by the time you come? Well, it depends. We don't know. I don't know how far the car is, but
Yeah.
these are just little things that they're thinking about. Like, gosh, man, you know what? Maybe if I did have the beanbag shotgun, right? So the beanbag shotgun is a less lethal weapon.
Yeah.
It's like a sock. It's a sock round, and that sock round has like these 9 rubber bullets, these pellets.
Yeah.
At impact, it causes a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know. I've never been tased,
Yeah.
Or I've never taken a beanbag shot, a beanbag
I thought all police
shot.
officers had to be tased.
Well, I were lucky, this on a side note. Yeah, I don't want to pivot too much, but I know there's academy classes where they actually got tased.
Yeah.
We were lucky and we did it different, but
okay, no worries.
We'll say that for another story. But in terms of being tased, 1, 2, compared to a beanbag shotgun, you're right. Who knows? Maybe, perhaps, that beanbag shotgun probably would have him drop the knife. Because I think the whole time they're trying to accomplish is to drop that knife. So once you drop that knife, which is the weapon, because at any moment they can lunge, and then you have to engage.
Right. Yeah, I think, most people, when they first watch a video and they don't have any information on, the protocols for police officers, they don't know this person's situation, they're just looking at a video. A lot of times what I realize is most people just jump to judgment of, the police officers, they could have done this, they could have done that. But one, you don't put yourself in their situation and you don't see a lot of the things that they do. You're just watching a video. You don't know if they keep on going back. Now they're on the road where there could potentially be people. He might attack someone else. If he goes back in, that's where the lady is at. Maybe he can stab her. If they try to engage, he can stab them. I know it's an older man, but a knife is sharp. It doesn't matter how old you are.
That's correct.
It can stab you and it can kill you.
Very good point.
And, people always say use less lethal. Sometimes you use it and it doesn't work. Which we just saw. Yeah. They shot him and this is a 63-year-old guy. Like, if I get shot by a taser, I'm probably going down.
That'll probably be me and you both.
Yeah, this dude took 2 and, we don't know. Maybe it missed and they didn't engage properly because sometimes that happens. They bounce off people. Sometimes people are, they're under narcotics and they literally don't even feel anything. We don't know if this guy's on some kind of narcotics or not. We didn't get any toxicology report.
And also, if I may interject,
yes.
Normally, if just for your audience, for educational purposes, I don't think, but it is. The optimal range on a taser is anywhere between 5 to 30 feet, 30 feet being max.
Yeah.
So, now close. I don't want to, completely dissect this whole incident in it itself. So the question is, how far are you? I don't know. I can't tell from this camera.
Yeah. It's difficult.
I should say I can't tell from the body worn video because the body worn doesn't depict
it's
how
a
much of a distance
lens,
are.
So it's probably a lot closer than it seems.
Could be.
Or it could be further. We don't really know.
Right, exactly. So maybe if it was more than 30 feet, depending on the wind direction or something, there's a strong possibility. And I think we saw that it didn't penetrate.
Yeah, it didn't look like either one penetrated. It could be the clothing that he's wearing. It could be where it hit. It could be so many different factors.
A lot of different factors.
Yeah, so from my initial observance of this video, I do think that the police did everything they could to prevent this from happening. But now on a mental health aspect, one is, what would lead a person to get to this position, as far as wanting to commit suicide by cop. Obviously we don't know a lot of the factors going on to it. And then secondly, how these police officers are going to be, affected. Both them, their family, when they go home, they take all this back with them. So Danny, this is where I want to kind of get your insight on both of those aspects is, what can lead a person to get to that point? What are some of the tips that you would give them to prevent that? And then also, how this can affect everyone involved and, what are some of the tactics and tips that you can provide as far as your expertise?
Yeah, so there's definitely mental health stuff going on in the sense it could be bipolar disorder, it could be major depressive disorder, but usually individuals who want to die by suicide have severe depression.
Yeah.
And with that comes life experiences that are traumatic.
Yeah.
A loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of a wife or a marriage, maybe because it was a domestic abuse situation. Maybe they were in separation. Maybe he thought his life was completely over. And so when someone has that thought process or that belief system that this is it, I can't change, it's over, can't move forward, my life is gone.
Yeah.
There's this hopelessness that comes in that is debilitating.
Yeah.
And with suicide, people are trying to escape the emotion, not their life. It's the emotional experience that they're so deep in that they think this is it. Especially with depression, when you're in a depressive state, it is so hard to see outside of that little bubble that you're in.
Right.
And that's all you see. That is the biggest one with my clients who are severely depressed.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing where I coach is like, it's okay. Take it easy. Take one day at a time. You will eventually see the light. But when people don't have that kind of support, they're stuck. They're trapped.
Yeah. And, obviously, nobody was able to save this man at this point. Unfortunately, he passed away due to the shooting. And as far as the officers, so the officers involved in the shooting were cleared of any wrongdoing. Marlon, what is the process with that?
So basically, I'm not too familiar with Florida, the state of Florida's process as it relates to these OISs and the procedures, when officers that are involved in this incident go through. But what I can tell is a little bit about my experience. So I had the privilege in LAPD to work a unit where when there is a critical incident, OISs being the most popular because they happen more often, where we represent all the percipient witnesses, including the actual shooting officer involved in this OIS.
Yeah.
And so there's rights. Officers do have rights because here comes this compelled interview that Internal Affairs is going to sit you down and say, hey, you need to tell us what happened. Right. And so throughout the years, this process, this machine of how to go from, hey, the minute that you pull the trigger up until the minute where these investigators say, you know what, we're done here, we're done investigating, it's time to go home and wrap it up.
Yeah.
That whole process involves a lot of different steps, a lot of different processes.
Yeah.
One of those processes is actually for you to be cleared to go back to work by seeing a psychologist, right? And so I know in my beloved LAPD, you actually have to go see a psychologist and get cleared.
Okay.
But what I found interesting is that, of course, there's that privilege, right? And the confidentiality when you speak to your psychologist.
Yes.
But, I'm always of the belief that every OIS is a consequential incident, right?
Yeah.
It's a consequential event.
Yeah.
Is the way I like to title it.
It's life altering.
Because there's going to be consequences. Some are going to be unintended.
Yeah.
For example, there's definitely going to be emotional consequences.
Yeah.
Right? There's going to be criminal consequences. There could be. In this case, they weren't filed on, right? There weren't any criminal filings. In today's world, if you will, because this happened in 2016. Had that would have happened in 2023, and it depends on the I suppose the district attorney, the climate, where we're at.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Chances are there's a fair probability that maybe they could be criminally filed on. So do you have those criminal consequences? Obviously, there could be physical consequences as well.
Yeah.
In this case, there wasn't. You can get involved in an OIS and the suspect can shoot you in the arm and they can shoot you in any part of the body. And for the rest of your life, maybe you just won't have that range of motion, whatever the case may be. So what I'm trying to say, and then of course, family, which goes to the emotional component. And so it's very, very complex if you really think about it, where it's a life-changing event.
Yeah.
You're never going to wake up. I've never been in OIS. I've had the privilege to know what this process is like. I mean, I've rolled out to about 100 of these.
Yeah.
Enough to know or enough to speak about what this process and the tactical approaches, whether or not the officers substantially deviated from these process and procedures, this policy.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be judged.
Yeah.
And you're going to be scrutinized and you're going to be examined in a very, very, it's, what is it? Macro is worse than micro.
Yeah.
In this scope, 8 months, 9 months from now, they're going to look at this. It's going to be in front of a review panel of command staff officers, and they're going to start asking you, and pretty much judgment day, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to judge you on a couple of categories. The first one being drawn and exhibiting. So a lot of times is that, look, at what point did you actually do and exhibit your firearm? And what caused you to do that?
Yeah.
Today's policies into doing that are way more stricter to a certain degree than they were, I would say, maybe 5, maybe even 10 years ago, right? So normally, when you draw, and it was what we call break leather. When you break leather and you're involved in a situation where it's going to escalate, where it's necessary for you that, look, this is going to turn out to be a deadly situation. You know what? I got to break leather and be ready.
Yeah.
Right? Then it's tactics. And I kind of already touched on that, the fact that tactics can be deviated, right? But the deviation from what you learned, whether it was in the academy, whether you just went to an updated course, where you work, whatever you learned, you can actually deviate from what you were taught.
Yeah. But not
You
too
can
much.
you can do it substantially.
Yeah.
The question is can you justify it?
Justifiable.
So if it's justifiable, chances are everything that you did is going to come back in policy. And then last but not least is the use of deadly force, right? So we have a definition, use of deadly force. I'm not going to give it to you verbatim, but what I can tell you is there's a feasibility component to it. One, two, and there's a warning component. And we saw this textbook where they said, look, I don't want to shoot you.
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot you. That is the warning that, you know what, I don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
So chances are, it looks like it's going to be in an M policy type of shooting. Now, again, these are steps, right? Processes by which we go through. Yeah. I'm sure Florida has something similar to what I just explained, but it's worth, telling. That's what we're here for, right, to tell your audience.
Time frame from the incident happening through everything you just explained to them saying you're good to go. I mean, they were cleared of any wrongdoing. How long is that? Like 6 months, a year?
Right. So normally it would take, again, from my experience, and I can speak for my agency, it should take anywhere between 7 to 8 months. Like at the 8-month mark, you should be able to do a presentation. So the commanding officer of that particular division or the precinct, if you will, they're going to be presenting to a panel.
Right.
And they're going to be saying, hey, look, we did a walkthrough. This is what happened. And just break everything down frame by frame, second by second. Yeah. And they're also going to give a recommendation on those 3 categories that I just mentioned. Now, I mean, the one of the issues is, and this is when I put my internal affairs hat on, right? And this discipline component is, well, if you did do something wrong, okay, so we have to form allegations and say that, hey, you committed some misconduct. You violated policy. Yeah. You neglected your duty. You failed to do A, B, and C, whatever the case may be.
Like you said, it could be just on one particular situation. You did everything right in this, but this one thing you did wrong.
Right. And
it might be a more severe punishment compared to a
correct. But then you start talking about statute of limitation issues. So at what point did you actually discover this misconduct? Did you discover it on the day of?
I thought when someone dies, there is no statute of limitations.
Well, I'm talking about just from an administrative.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Alleged misconduct aspect to it. So in other words, if we're going to say that you did something wrong 8 months later, well, guess what? You have about 4 months
before the
to serve this officer with with whatever penalty or whatever, so much penalty, but whatever it is that you like to do, whether it's training, whether it's whatever type of discipline, that's the word I'm looking for, whatever type of discipline that officer reasonably deserves because of this incident, right? So that's when you start getting into the critical incident component, and it couples and it marries up with possible misconduct. So now you have peace officers' Bill of Rights to protect the officers from their rights, and here we go. It could get a little complicated, but in this situation, as sad, as devastating as the situation is, the cops, I mean, as you can see, they pretty much exhausted a lot of what they wanted to do.
Yeah. From my observation of the video, as I said, I think they did all they could. And obviously the goal here is to help save lives and prevent certain things to happen. But there's life and there's realities that there's, certain things that you cannot change. If someone like you, I didn't even know it was not illegal to commit suicide.
No, it's
right.
not.
And that's
what you said. Like if someone wants to kill themselves, there's nothing you can really do to stop them.
Just have to do your own
unfortunately,
duty.
Absolutely.
By choosing this route that this gentleman chose, it affected a lot of people, including the police officers.
Absolutely.
And they're going to have to deal with the repercussions for the rest of their lives. And, hopefully from your knowledge and insight on what you do, hopefully all these tips that you are giving can give some insight to police officers that are out there, so they can make sure that they're on point when they're showing up to these critical incidents or these these calls. And then obviously, Danny, from your aspect, we're hoping to reach people who are potentially in a depressive mode where they're having suicidal ideation, and maybe like you said, we don't know, something happens to where they feel hopeless. You know, maybe they commit a crime and now the police are involved. They're like, you know what, screw it, just kill me. You know?
Yeah, but I want to kind of add on to that. There is this level of anger that I'm sure some of the police officers encounter of having to be put in this type of situation.
Yeah.
Because most people who succeed at committing suicide don't usually want other people involved. And the fact that someone is forcing someone else to take their life because they don't want to live their life,
correct,
is a selfish, infuriating space to be in, because now that officer's power has been robbed and now they have to live with the consequences of someone else's choices.
Absolutely. Very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Like I said, and I've seen it in videos where literally right after the cop,
Yes.
is forced to shoot someone, they're upset.
I'm sure.
More than sad, they're just like, man, why'd you make me do that? They're like, they're cursing. They're really upset. Like they don't want to do it.
It's it's sad to say, but it's living with a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a tough job, man.
It's a tough job.
Tough.
That's what you get paid for,
But yeah, I think hopefully people were able to get some insight and wisdom by listening to you guys' review and recap of that video. And I want to thank both of you for all of your time, your insight, your wisdom, and hopefully this will help some people out there. I know that you are going to be airing your show Details, which is going to be actually going in depth with the actual officers that were involved in these OISs, and you're going deep into what happened afterwards. Because like this, we don't know. We don't know what happened with that cop. We don't know when he went home. Did it affect his relationship? Did it affect his job? Did it affect his reputation? Like, how did it affect it? And Details is going to be the show where you go in depth and, find out all of these things that happen.
You get to tell your story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Danny, she is, like I mentioned, a licensed psychotherapist. So if anybody out there is dealing with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, any type of mental health issue that needs some guidance, go ahead and reach out to Danny. She can guide you in the right direction, if not provide some practical insight to help you, or if you have a family member or someone that can help from this information that Danny has. So I want to thank you guys again for staying and watching the show. You have seen Through the Lens, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys, for joining.